This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. For a free 10-day unlimited trial, visit lynda.com/MacVoices. And by iChart Magazine, putting Apple and tech news in focus. Subscribe in iTunes or find out more at iChartMag.com. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, Mr. Michael Cohen is back with us this time. You know him as a Take Control author, among other things. This time he's here to talk about Take Control of PDFpen 7. Michael, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Chuck. It's good to be here. Well, actually, I'm here and you're there.
Yeah, we're somewhere in the middle, somewhere in the Netherlands. PDFpen 7, we had Philip Goward on from Smie to talk a little bit about the updates. Yeah, Philip's a great friend, and I was kind of anxious to talk to you now. I think there's a definite different perspective from an author and someone trying to teach this stuff and talk about it as opposed to the people that develop it.
Well, I've been on both ends of that game. I've developed stuff in my life, and I've written about other people's stuff. And yeah, there is a different perspective. When you're developing something, there are really exciting things that may be going on under the hood that nobody will really care about, but they're just way cool the way you put something together inside the application. When you write about something from an outside perspective, you're going, what is this thing and what does it do and how does it do it?
And why should I care?
Yeah, and what may be the coolest thing for the developer may not be the coolest thing at all for the user who goes, this feature's really neat. And the developer's going, yeah, that took like half an hour.
Yeah, and it's funny. We all twist software and hardware to maybe a little lesser extent to our own wants and needs. And that's what I think is so interesting about it. I think there's an artistry there to create software that lets you twist it to your wants and needs as opposed to just saying, this is the way it will be.
Well, you can take something as simple as a screwdriver and use it in all sorts of different ways.
Great example. Great example. I am curious, though, and first of all, I'll say right up front that I'm an unabashed fan of PDFpen. I love it. I use it probably every day, at least several times a day, because the world runs on PDFs. I mean, it used to run on paper, now it runs on PDFs. So how do you approach something like this that so many people use in so many different ways for so many different things?
Well, I look at the different things that PDFpen lets you do, and then I write about them saying, here's what this does, and here's why you might want to use it. I try to come up with scenarios. I don't just say, you can do this, you can do that, but here's an example of someone who might use this feature, might use that feature. Here's one way to accomplish this task or that task. So you do a march through all the features and capabilities, but you do it from the point of view of things you might want to do, not things that it offers you, but things you might want to do with it. Edit a PDF, open a PDF, print one, convert it into another format. These are things you want to do,
It sounds like such a simple, obvious approach, but I'm as bad as anybody. You run down the feature list and think, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that I can see how I might use that. Oh, well, this over here, yeah, maybe sometime.
You have to tell yourself a series of short stories about it.
Yeah, and you take it and say, here's what you can do with it, and I think that opens people's eyes. I mean, I can edit a PDF. Okay, so I can edit a PDF. But
what does that mean? What does it look like? Why would you want to? And when would you want to?
Right. And then all of a sudden the world opens up and it's like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, well, it's a hard thing to do. It's similar to designing a user interface. You have to think about the reader.
Yeah. So we've talked now let's get to it. PDFpen. How do you teach us what to do with this? And of course, naturally, we all focus on the new features. But it's also important, I think, for people that maybe have not picked it up before, or maybe they've used it just in a limited fashion.
Well, one of the things I do, I actually start off with a brief history of what a PDF is and why it is what it is, because it's a venerable format by this time. I first saw a PDF in, I think it was 1992. I was working at the Voyager company, and we were inventing ebooks. And a guy from Adobe came in to show us this thing called, at the time, Carousel, which gave you an exact replica on the screen of a document that you had printed. You know, it was a perfect copy, so it was a great thing for ebooks, they were claiming, and it really wasn't for the kind of ebook we wanted to do, because we didn't want to do a copy of paper, but do things that were a little more interactive. But the whole idea behind PDF at the time was to present a document digitally in the exact form that it would look like if it were printed out, no matter what machine you put it on. It could be an IBM PC at the time. It could have been a little Mac at the time. But it would look like that document and would print out exactly. And that's what it's continued to be to this day. But it was never a format designed to be edited.
And, I mean, that was sort of the whole point.
Right. If you actually take a look inside of a PDF and see how the things you arrange, you'll be going, oh my God. The text is scattered here and there, higgledy-piggledy, surrounded by all sorts of data structures. It's not like, you know, it's a page description. It's not an editing format. And what's marvelous about things like PDFpen is it's able to cut through all of that and put the text sort of together so you can, in fact, edit it, make changes to it, correct it, highlight it, that sort of thing. Because PDF really wasn't designed from the outset to do that. And although the format's gotten richer, more complex, and more flexible, at the core, it's still an incredibly unyielding environment in which to want to actually do creative work.
You know, that's something I've never done. I've never looked inside a PDF. And so I don't have I can imagine, but I don't really have an appreciation.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who used to take all the machines in our house apart when I was a kid and then couldn't get them back together.
Which one of us didn't? Yeah, I remember at the time, I remember doing a report on Carousel for a company I was working for at the time for a lot of reasons. At that time, you know, certain documentation of certain things in an immutable format had a lot of appeal, a whole lot of appeal.
Oh, yeah, you just, you know, the whole idea behind a paperless office even now is, you know, get rid of the paper, put it on PDFs. You know, they take up a lot less room on your desk.
Now, you've written Take Control of PDFpen previous versions.
This is the third time I did Take Control of PDFpen 5, Take Control of PDFpen 6, and Take Control of PDFpen 7, to be followed by A New Hope and then The Empire Strikes Back.
So did you go back and sort of from the ground up rebuild the book based on PDFpen 7, or did you just dive into the new features?
It's not so much I dove into the new features, but I went through the book basically and said, okay, I'm describing this product now. So I checked everything that I had done against the current product and revised when necessary. And I added in the new features when necessary. And I brought in the discussions of all the stuff, but I integrated it all together. I'm not saying this is a new feature, that's a new feature. There's a little, maybe a page at the very beginning of the book saying, what's new in this edition? And it marches down what's changed in PDFpen. It marches down what's changed in the Apple environment on which it runs. And it points to the parts of the book where I cover that. But the book itself, it's just a revision that describes the product as it currently is without saying this is new, this is old, this has been around for a long time, this has been completely revamped. Because that's not really important. It's important, you know, if you're telling a news story, if you're saying, here's what's new, here's what's different. But if you're trying to tell somebody how to use something, you just say, here's what you got, here's what it does. And
I like that idea simply because it lets me give this book to someone that's new to PDFpen, and you're not going to blow by all the features to get to the new stuff. You're also not going to be, you know, necessarily just wowed by the new stuff and overlook the old stuff. You're going to be able to go start to finish and get up to speed, learn how to use all the tools of this utility. Yeah.
At the same time, what Smie did was this is compatible with Yosemite only. You can't run it on any earlier version of Mac OS. Similarly, they completely revamped the iOS version for iOS 8. So every screenshot had to change to reflect the new look of it, and behaviors are a little bit different. So I just had to take all of that into account as I wrote it. So I'm describing the program you would use today. If you're not on Yosemite and you're running the older version, we're going to keep the older book available because that's exactly what you need. So Take Control of PDFpen 6 will still be available for sale for those who need it.
I want to be real clear on that point. This book addresses PDFpen for the Mac, but it also covers for the iOS version?
Yes. Smile used to have two separate apps, one for the iPhone, one for the iPad. And they completely redid it, so now it's a universal app. It runs on both iPhone and iPad and iPod Touch too, for that matter. And there's a very lengthy chapter. I guess it's maybe about a sixth to a quarter of the book that covers the iOS 8 PDFpen for iPad and iPhone.
Okay.
Which, by the way, is pretty sweet.
Well, they're all sweet. They're so useful, and
yes.
Like so many tools of this nature, I think one of the big things is learning what it can do, and then sort of remembering, oh yeah, I have a tool that can do that, instead of retyping something or slogging through, or just deciding, well, I can't do that, and move on.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just kind of take it from the ground up. First of all, as I recall, Philip said there was a bit of a revised interface as well to this one.
Yeah, it takes on the look and feel of typical toolbars and like that you'd see in Yosemite, a much flatter, more readable look. There's less shading and glitter and stuff like that. There's a lot more consistency between its look and the one on iOS, although the two are definitely distinct. You would never mistake a window from one for a window from the other. So the behavior of the program hasn't changed so much, although it's grown a few features, but it's much more unified. Now, it feels a lot smoother and stabler and just even better than ever. I quite like using this current version. And that was at the 7.0, the one that came out before they did a few minor enhancements and updates, as all new apps do. Even the very first one out the door, I'm going, yeah, I'm liking this a lot.
Do you feel that there are any features that really are more accessible, more useful? And I'm talking about older features now that in this new version?
Yeah, one of the big ones is how it deals with OCR. It always would do OCR and do it pretty well. You scan something in and you got to convert that picture into text. And so there's OCR capabilities built in. And it's always done a really good job. But now there's the ability to actually look directly at the OCR layer that is created that's usually invisible. Usually when you OCR a scanned typed document, you see the typed document. And it's got text in it, but you really can't see the text that the OCR did. But it's great if you want to do searching like that. But in PDFpen 7, you can now look at the OCR layer and say, oh, here's what it thought that word was. I wrote best and it thought I meant west, that sort of thing. You can actually see it now. And in PDFpen Pro, you can even correct the OCR layer if it's made OCR mistakes. So there's a great feature that just got a lot better.
Now, this may be digging a little bit too far under the hood, but we'll go there anyway.
Sure.
When you do the OCR layer, is the actual graphic layer is still there?
Oh, absolutely.
Down underneath. So you can get back to that if you need to for any reason.
Oh, you don't see the OCR layer unless you want to. It's a menu command or a command keystroke. You type it and, oh, look, that's what the OCR did. Okay, that's why it didn't find the word that I thought I typed. It wasn't able to interpret it. You can turn it back off again. Or you can go in and correct it and then turn it back off.
Now, when I send something, when I save or export from PDFpen to, and then I'm going to send that to someone, do they have access to the OCR layer and all?
Well, they won't have access to it, the ability to view it. What PDFpen does is say, okay, we've added this data structure to the PDF, and we're going to show it to you. We wrote code to display its contents. Most PDF viewers know about that layer and know it has searchable text, but it's not going to actually reveal that layer itself. It will reveal its position relative to the scanned in text. And you'll often notice when you scan in something in the OCR, you may select a word, to add a highlight or something. And the selection seems to be maybe a little off, a little above or below or to the side. That's because it's superimposing a text upon a picture, a text that you can't see, but the text is what's being selected, not the picture. So yeah, any PDF viewer will know about that layer and use it, but it just won't display it directly.
Right. But it's, I guess in other words, it's not something that I can protect.
Well, you can protect it in a way you can protect any PDF, and that is, you can put various restrictions on it. That's one thing that PDFpen allows is, to password protect a PDF and mixing some things in PDF Pro, some things, you have permission for, and others you can say, this PDF can be viewed on screen but not printed. This PDF can be printed but can't be annotated. There's various permissions you can grant to it.
And that's very easy to do with PDFpen.
Yeah, PDFpen Pro is...
Or PDFpen Pro, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another point I guess we should make. There's PDFpen 7, there's PDFpen Pro 7.
Right.
And all the features of PDFpen are in PDFpen Pro 7, but Pro introduces a few extra things.
That's correct. And if you have 7, you can upgrade to Pro at any time. There's a menu choice to do it, and they'll take it to Smile Store, give you a new license code, blah, 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 and they take some money from you, and you're done.
So how about other new features that you found especially useful, and what might we use them for?
Well, one of the big features is the fact that they did draw a line in the sand and say this runs only on Yosemite, because that allowed them to provide iCloud access even if you don't buy it from the Mac App Store. So you can still get to the iCloud drive and exchange documents via iCloud with PDFpen on iOS very easily. So basically you get iCloud, which is, if you're bopping from machine to machine like I do, that comes in very handy as well. As a matter of fact, not often, but from time to time I get PDFs of a copy that I have to mark up, because that's what you do when you're doing a book for print. They'll send you proofs in PDF form, and then you'll be saying, oh, this is wrong, change this, delete that, there's an extra space here. And I do that in PDFpen. Sometimes I'll be doing it standing in front of the Mac like I am right now, but sometimes I want to, chill out on my sofa, prop my iPad up, and do some work while I watch some very terrible broadcast TV.
Little editorial comment there by Michael.
It's an entertainment town. I live in, Chuck. That's our industry. But anyway, I can do that because I've stored the document in iCloud, so I can just open up in PDFpen for iPad and iPhone. And there's the document I was working on, and I'm ready to work and go, and any changes I make, they show up on my Mac. And it's just incredibly convenient for me. So,
and that's something to be very clear, we couldn't do before Yosemite, at least not with this utility. I mean, yeah, you could exchange things with Dropbox, but it wasn't nearly as smooth.
You could do it with iCloud if you purchased it through the Mac App Store. The Mac App Store restricts you to accessing various iCloud data storage features. So if Smile has 2 versions, there's a version of PDFpen for Mac that they sell themselves and one that they sell through the Mac App Store. And before Yosemite, those two one would have iCloud features and one wouldn't. But when Yosemite came out, Apple gave us iCloud Drive. And that creates folders on your Mac that show you what you have in iCloud, and it's available on the Finder, which means that any application can access iCloud Drive. So that's 90% of the reason you'd want to use iCloud, and you don't have to have any access to iCloud's special data storage features, like calendar exchange, data storage, databases, and like that. As far as getting to files you store in iCloud, on Yosemite, any application can do that. It doesn't have to be sold through the Mac App Store, which means that Smiles can sell you PDFpen and give you all of those features. The only feature it doesn't allow you to do is to share your PDFpen library with the iOS version if you buy it from Smile, because the library is stored as a special data structure using iCloud data storage techniques that non-Mac App Store apps can't use. But that's about it.
Do you have a recommendation as to whether you buy from the App Store or whether you go straight to Smile? Does that, in other words, does that differentiation a big enough deal?
If you really want to share your library, and if it also comforts you enormously in a open file dialog to see PDFpen at the very top showing you its iCloud thing right there, then buy it through the Mac App Store. If you buy it from Smile, you'll get updates sooner because they don't have to go through the Mac App Store validation, which can sometimes take a week or more. But you'll lose a couple of what are now relatively minor features. Last time, I settled on PDFpen through the Mac App Store, PDFpen 6. And although Smile is willing to give me a token so I can download the Mac App Store version, I haven't really felt the need. I'm very happy with the one that I got directly from Smile, even though I don't have the PDFpen iCloud item at the very top left of the favorites bar in the file dialog, and I can't share my library. That's not a big deal for me.
Okay. What you mentioned losing features, which of course is always something that, you know, I don't want to find out that I've lost a feature I really need or is important.
I don't think that there are any features that are missing in PDFpen 7 that were in PDFpen 6. It's pretty much the same app, smoother, more streamlined, and stuff that was there is there and a little bit better than it was before. And there's new stuff added as well. They took a lot of time, I think, in doing stuff under the hood in PDFpen to make it even faster, more reliable, and smoother to use. So there's a lot of optimization. Aren't anything you can call out in a bullet list of snazzy new features. Just like if you change one car engine for another, your car will be a car. It won't look any different. But under the hood,
yeah, it'll win the race.
That's right.
This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. Everyone likes to try before they buy. That way you can be sure you know you're getting what you pay for, that it suits your needs, that it delivers on the promises, that it delivers for you. That's why I'm so excited to point out that you can get a free 10-day free trial of lynda.com at lynda.com/MacVoices so you can answer all those questions for yourself. Find out why millions of people all over the world are using lynda.com to start learning about things like business, communication, and design. To improve their skills with programs like Logic, Adobe Lightroom, and WordPress. To demystify Facebook, to understand Instagram, to improve their presentations. See, that's the point. lynda.com has an amazing span of topics to choose from, so you can use it for work or for pleasure, for home or for office, for professional education, or your favorite hobby. And these videos aren't just put together by anybody. Each lynda.com author is an expert in their field, sharing their knowledge with you, just like you were attending one of their classes in person. You can get access to the entire lynda.com library free for a full 10 days. No restrictions, no limitations. Watch as much as you want for 10 days. Watch any topic, any subject, any software tutorial you want for 10 days. You pick what you want to learn about, and then go get it at lynda.com/MacVoices. I'm always looking for an interesting new video to sample, so let me know what you're watching by emailing me at chuck@macvoices.com. Maybe I've seen it, maybe I haven't. It's time for you to invest in yourself, and you can start that investment today for free at lynda.com/MacVoices. Do it right after the show, or open a new window in your browser and do it now. But by all means, do it. lynda.com/MacVoices for a free 10-day full trial. Thanks to lynda.com for their support of MacVoices. How about PDFpen Pro 7? What are some of the extra features that you get if you step up to the Pro level?
The Pro level, as before, allows you to build interactive forms. There's a new feature for interactive forms, a signature field. You can create a signature field that you can actually, with a trackpad or a graphics tablet or, the screen of an iPad, sign your name with your finger directly, and that image is captured and included as part of the PDF when it's submitted as a form. And PDFpen Non-Pro and PDFpen for iPad allow you to work with PDFs that have one of those signature fields built in. PDFpen Pro lets you create a form that has those fields. So that's one of the cool new features. It was a lot of fun to play with. Sign here, draw a smiley face.
Yeah, it just goes to show you can think outside the box a little bit on that stuff.
PDFpen has a capability of exporting to Microsoft Word. If you've got a document that's really heavy text, you can export to Microsoft Word format, and you end up with a Word document that you can then edit in Word or Pages or anything else that can handle Word documents. Hell, TextEdit can handle Word documents. Pro adds the ability to export to PDFpen archival form, PDF archival format, which is a specialized version of PDF that's designed to work on any system ever. But in addition, it has an export to Excel. If you have a PDF that's mostly tables of numbers or figures and numbers and like that, you can export it directly to Excel, or you can export things to PowerPoint. So that's another nice Pro feature.
Yeah, the export to Excel, I was kind of excited about, simply because if you try to export that stuff to Word or whatever, it always trashes it. And the little bit I've played with the new version of PDFpen Pro 7, excuse me, it works extremely well. It works just like you would expect it to, and boy, that's like a lifesaver.
Mm-hmm. And that's not a very easy thing to pull off, because, as I said before earlier, if you look inside of a PDF, that table looks nothing like that table that you want to edit. A number will be here, a number will be there. They won't maybe even not appear in the same order that you see them on the page. They're all tied together as weird parts of data structures that describe how you would print the document, how you would display the document. No understanding of its parts other than there's text and there's graphics.
Right. Go back for a second to the interactive fields. I think that's a great example of something that you say, okay, and then move on. How would I use interactive fields? Why would I want interactive fields?
Well, you wouldn't unless you're designing a form to be filled out on a computer, online, or a PDF that you send somebody. A permission form, if you need their signature, they can actually sign it. And when they submit the PDF back to you, you would get the results of what they filled out in the form, including their actual signature, not a scan, but the actual signature that they actually wrote. That might have, ramifications in certain contractual environments, legal environments. If you build forms, it's a cool feature. If you never create forms to send to other people, it's not a feature you need.
No, but I think it's a feature that more people could use and benefit from if they really understood how easy, first of all, how easy it is. Second of all, the power that it introduces. That the idea that you can give people multiple choices, or free form entry.
Well, in addition to the signature field, you can build complete forms with checkboxes, fill in the blank, drop downs. Choose one of the following, and you pull it down, and it fills out the form for you. Those sorts of interactive forms, even PDFpen 6 could do. PDFpen 7 is a lot better at it. It just feels smoother and better to me. I did it a lot working in PDFpen 6, and it worked fine. But in 7, it just feels much more solid. And the results are great.
And so these are forms that I can put on the web. I can, like you say, email or transfer to someone, and then have them make their selections, sign it if I want, and send back.
It's even smarter than that. If you were to go let's say go into Pages and type up a form, where you say like name, and then you draw an underline, address, and you draw an underline, male or female, and you draw little boxes. And that's a word processing document. You save it as a PDF. You open it up in PDFpen, and there's a command in PDFpen Pro to read through that scanned document and turn those things that you typed into actual interactive form fields. So that line you underscored in the PDF that's a form, you give that to somebody, they just click on that line, and there's a space for them to type something. So you can make forms very easily. You build them in a word processor where it would be easy to do. and then you feed it to PDFpen, push a button, and oh, look, there I've got an interactive form.
Michael, and for some reason we're stuck on forums, which is fine. But in the case of the book, so do you actually walk me through the process of creating one of these forms?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I do it. The Wizard Tim survey, in which you get to find out, if you're a Knight of Arthur going on a quest, what is your quest? Is it to seek the Holy Grail? Is it go to the Castle Anthrax? I build this whole form out for you. And to demonstrate each of the form elements, there's fill in the blank, there's check boxes, there's all sorts of things.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let's kick over to the iOS version for a second. Obviously, there are a lot of features that are the same. What is, if anything, is unique about those, or are they just an extension of PDFpen and PDFpen Pro 7 on the Mac?
It largely replicates what you can do with PDFpen 7, not Pro, but regular on the Mac. Almost all the functionality seems to be there. Nothing pops to the top of my head that is something you can't do on the iPad that you can do on the Mac or the iPhone. Although the interface is different because it's designed for the mobile interface, and it's really quite nice. There's even a little palm guard feature on the iOS version where, if you're marking up a text, maybe drawing circles around things, change this, draw an arrow, do that. If your hand rests on the screen, suddenly, where are you drawing? But you press the little palm guard thing, and you say, I want this part of the screen to be shielded. And then you can do your drawing and rest your hand right on the screen, and it's not going to cause any problem. It's a simple, easy-to-use feature. It's a real convenience.
You bring up an interesting point, and I think we're seeing more developers slowly go this way, that they're developing two separate but similar interfaces, one for the desktop client, one for the iOS client, in some cases even three, because we have the iPhone and then the iPad. Right. And I find those apps refreshing instead of somebody just trying to slap things together. And obviously you're not going to do pull-down menus and all on an iOS device quite the same way. But more and more, I think the developers are recognizing the benefits of and the capabilities of the mobile interface and designing for it. And I really love that.
Well, yeah, you have to think different because people are. Well, let's face it. If you're at a Mac, you're probably using one of these things or something like to point. You're not pointing at the screen. Your hand's not there. So there's certain things you can or can't do with a point interface. You don't want to have like a menu bar because your finger obstructs it if you try to tap on it. On a mobile interface, you have a much different way of approaching. You have buttons with popovers that pop out in different ways. Seem to have just disabled my trackpad. Well, I'll have to plug in a mouse shortly.
Yeah, it's just it seems like just one more piece of the evolution of all these devices, and all the controls that you have on one device, you shouldn't expect to have on the other device.
Certainly not in the same place.
Right.
Things will work in different ways, and you have to figure out. I want to communicate this to the user and want to have the user communicate this back to me. What's the most effective way to do it with my fingertip on a touch screen? You don't want to think about how did I do it on the Mac, just how would I want the person to respond? How could I do it? How would I want to do it with my hands?
And PDFpen and PDFpen Pro and PDFpen for iOS, we got to find a way to shorten this. But
they call it PDFpen for iPad and iPhone.
Okay, so
between iPad and iPhone,
right? So all the PDFpens.
Yeah.
If you stop and think about it, there are some things that cross over between the Mac and iOS, but there are a lot of apps that are iOS only. There are a lot of apps that are Mac only, and to make that bridge and address that, I think is becoming more and more important. I think that because there are things I would like to do on my Mac that I can only do in an iOS app. If you ask me what they are, I can't tell you right now, but I know they're there because I've had it happen. So I think this is a class of application that we need, and the fact that it's here now with PDFpen with the PDF pens. How's that? There we go. It puts them a little bit ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm. I think Apple was the leader, and a lot of people who said, well, why did Apple do this to the iWork apps? Numbers and Keynote and like that. Completely rewrote them from the ground up, but they wanted to produce a family that worked across platforms, partly to sell more platforms because they want to make money, but also as demonstrations of how you do similar functional applications tailored for different UI environments. And so Apple did that, and others are following suit. Microsoft is doing that with Office now. And Smile's been doing it for a little while too, but they're getting better at it because they're learning more about how people use it. And the tools that Apple gives them for communicating with the user, for laying out programs in iOS, are better and smarter and sharper than they have been, making it a lot easier to do very nice interfaces on iOS. I think PDFpen takes pretty good advantage of it. I like the way they do things.
I think you've just brought the conversation the whole way around to that to the part of the discussion where there are things that are going on under the hood that most users don't really know about or care about, and would say, But yeah, what's going on under the hood in Yosemite is definitely giving more power to the developers.
Mm-hmm. And under the hood in iOS 8 too. And the two are kind of joined a lot of ways. There are separate code bases, but there's a lot shared. And Apple's getting better at their teams talking to one another, it seems like.
Yeah.
Not perfect yet. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't work quite right.
Well, but should that be a surprise, Michael?
It's always been this way. I have never used an operating system on any platform by any developer that didn't have hiccups and weird things, and why the hell did they do that feature?
So this is Take Control of PDFpen 7, mm-hmm. which of course covers all of the versions of PDFpen, mm-hmm. all the current versions of PDFpen.
Well, unless they come up with an update since when the book was written, but I do usually note those online, and if it's a major update, we do a revision to the book and sell it for free to anybody who bought that edition.
And of course, TakeControlBooks.com is where you want to go to get this.
And people have just recently purchased Take Control of PDFpen 6. I don't know how far back we're going, but if you bought it relatively recently, you'll get a free upgrade to Take Control of PDFpen 7.
So, thank you. So this is considered not just a revision, but this is a new edition.
It's a new edition.
But you're grandfathering recent purchasers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Pricing on the book?
I believe it's still $10.
See,
and that's and the book is at this point, 170 pages long in PDF form, which you can open up in PDFpen. Oh, let me rewrite Michael's book. Oh, it's a typo. I'm going to fix that sucker.
Either that or you open one and the other and we just all get sucked right into the black hole. I don't know which. Well, it's always great to have these books updated for new software, new revisions of software. And this one is no less, because I have a pretty good idea about how much work you put into this.
I did, and I got to tell you, working with the folk at Smile was really great. They would answer any questions I had, usually within 10 minutes. Send an email, and then 10 minutes later, boom, Greg or Philip respond with the exact answer that I need to know. And when I finished this draft, we put it up in the last week for review from the people from Smile, and they went through it, and I actually learned quite a bit, because there were features I didn't know about or little tricks I didn't know about that aren't even covered in their help. And they said, oh, yeah, try this and that. And it's made the book better. So they've been really active participants in this book, which is great. I
see. So there's secret knowledge in the book.
Well, not so much secret knowledge as, they took a look and said, oh, you say this, but, you could do it that way as well. And I'm going, yeah, it hadn't occurred to me. There was there was one feature having to do with getting stuff in and out of PDFpen to other devices. And I cover, all the ways you can share a PDF. And one I didn't cover was AirDrop, because I have a Mac that doesn't support AirDrop, so it never really was an issue for me to even try. They said, if you've got a recent Mac and the iOS version, you don't need to put it in iCloud if you just want to send it to any nearby device. And it won't have to be just your own device. If you come over to my place, and hold your iPad up and say, "Oh, can I have that PDF?" I can use AirDrop to send it to you. And I didn't cover in the book because I never used that feature. And Greg pointed, I said, "Oh, yes, of course." So then I did go back and add it to the book. But that was just one of the things that they helped me do.
I know there are more Take Control books coming, Michael.
Yeah, I might have to do a text expander book soon.
Okay. I don't mind. That sounds good. That sounds good. Well, there are a lot of things in the new versions of PDFpen. And if you want to learn them, Michael's book is the way to do it. That way you not only get trained on the new stuff, but you also get refreshers on the old stuff, and maybe he'll open your eyes to some features that have been there that you just haven't been using properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, or haven't been using to their best capability.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's good to see you. Thanks for the time.
You're welcome. It's been fun.
We'll do it again soon.
All righty.
Folks, once again, Take Control of PDFpen 7 from Michael E. Cohen at TakeControlBooks.com. Go get it. I think you're going to love it. I think you'll find that PDFpen is essential a utility as I find it to be too. Please check out the show notes. We'll have links to everything in there, and we'll see you again next time on Mac Voices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Mac Voices blog. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the Mac Voices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest Mac Voices news from our front page or at MacVoices.com/newsletter. Do more with your Apple tech by subscribing to the free Mac Voices magazine on Flipboard by visiting MacVoices.com/magazine. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.